Hello Flosstube and welcome back to episode number something. I don't know. How do people know? I mean, they must check what number Flosstube they're on. Anyway, I'm Ros Clark. This is Ros Clark Craft, which is my home here on YouTube. This is my home in real life, obviously. You can find me also on Instagram and on Etsy as Ros Clark Craft. Welcome back to another video. I've literally just finished recording the latest in my Celebration of Colour video series. If you are stitching the Celebration of Colour stitch along, I hope you're enjoying stitching it. I'm going to show you my progress, maybe, yeah, sort of, in a minute. But even if you're not stitching that Sal, I have loved doing those videos. So in each video, there is a little bit just talking about the chart and the pattern where we're up to, but only a few minutes. And then most of the video is me talking about colour in some way, colour theory or colour in art or colour symbolism, colour language, all sorts of things. Yeah, I find colour endlessly fascinating. And so I've just recorded the 7th video of 12 and I've far from running out of things to say. The most recent one I filmed, which isn't going to be out for another week or two, which is yellow green. I'm talking about colour substitution. So again, that's the thing which even if you're not interested in the stitch along, you might well be interested in going and watching. So do check that out. Right, I've got some Stitchy Kindness, I've got a finished object, I've got a little bit of stitching to show you, and I have a follow-up Thinky Thoughts to chat about. I don't think it'll be loads, but I just thought if I don't film this weekend, I definitely won't film next weekend. I probably won't be able to film the weekend after that, and then it'll be months. So anyway, there isn't loads, but because I've really only been stitching on 2 things and I've been loving it. Anyway, I'm going to start with my finished object. This is a long time in the waiting, but this is Autumn Jack. So I did this series of Jacks last year, one for winter, spring, summer, and ended with autumn. And for the other 3, I did online tutorials of how to do the finish that I'd done. In the end, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to finish this and not film the tutorial, otherwise I will never finish it. So it is the bonkers finishing idea that I had that I threatened to show you, and let me show you what it is. In fact, let me find something so I can really show you what it is that I'll do. I've got a packet of needles here. So, needle holder, magic needle holder. Do you see that? It's under the parallel ribbons. It's under the cross ribbons at the bottom, parallel ribbons at the top. I remember making one of these when I was, 8 or 9, and I just thought it was brilliant then, and I still think they're brilliant now. It has no practical benefit. No practical benefit at all. It's not super secure. My ribbon is a little bit flexible, and because these are quite thick, that's all right, but yeah, there's a little bit of give in it. I mean, you can stand it up. Probably what I will just do is display it like that. But it was super fun to make. This thing is called a magic wallet. So if you're interested in making a magic wallet, there are all kinds of tutorials all over the place. And all I did was take 2 pieces of mat board and cover them with fabric. 2 pieces of mat board the same size, another one with different fabric, and one with the stitched piece. Then you follow the instructions very carefully for how you arrange your pieces of ribbon. Lots of the tutorials you'll find are for paper ones, but it works absolutely fine with ordinary ribbon. And then you glue it all together. There is quite a lot of gluing at different stages. There is no sewing. I'm sorry, I can play with this for hours. I just think it's magic. That's why it's called the magic wallet. But anyway, I'm glad to have got that finished and in the way that I wanted it. And I think you can see with these stitching jack patterns, I think I did all of mine on 18 count Ada, and they don't come up big. So some of them I've finished in, the one that I finished with the pillow finished summer, I put a sort of fabric border on it, and then it ends up being quite a nice size thing, but little tiny ones. The first one that I did was the stitching one for Stitch in London that I made into a little pillow just the size of the stitching, and it is really quite little. Obviously you can stitch it on lower gauge fabric and make it bigger if you want, but they're not huge. All of the Jack patterns are in my Etsy shop. There are the 4-season ones, there's a stitching one, and there's also a Christmas one. There may be more coming in the future, but not anytime soon. So that was my finish. I'm not going to show you where my actual stitch along piece is up to in person because it's further ahead than there has been revealed, but I will put a picture here. So I've been working on this. I have finished yellow green, but as this video comes out, yellow is being released. So I'm only going to show you up to yellow. But yellow finishes our frame. I had a little bit of a crisis because I had stitched, so I stitched, this is my original model that I stitched before Christmas. And I wanted another one sort of along with everyone in a slightly different palette. And I wanted to use the Roxy Flossco Gold Star from the Holiday Countdown box. So I didn't have a full skein of it. And I have said in the pattern, you really do need a full skein of the yellow. You know, the other colours, not so much, but the yellow you really do. Anyway, you really do. So anyway, I did have enough to finish the frame in the yellow, but not then to do the yellow parts of the stitching in the rest of the design. So I've had to use a different yellow for that. It is a bit paler. It's not perfect. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So that's yellow. Like I say, I have already stitched yellow green, and my plan for the day when this comes out is I will be doing the green and hopefully recording the video for green as well. And then we will be 2/3 of the way through. Can't quite believe it. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm really loving how other people are also enjoying it. You know, lots of the people who are stitching it are saying it's a really fun stitch. And I think it is. You know, when I first stitched my original model, it's just a really satisfying thing to do. If you're someone who ever colour completes in their stitching, it's all colour completion. Yeah, I just think none of it is too repetitive. You know, there's lots of different sections on the chart and they're all a little bit different. None of them are anywhere near finished yet. Some of them are not even started. There's, as I'm looking at mine, I've still got, so I've only got 5 more sections stitched on this, and there are 2 areas of the chart that are not even begun. So, you know, hopefully it is keeping people's interest. I didn't want to do something that by this point you could see exactly where it's all going to go. There are some sections which I think you probably could fill in at this point without the charts, but there's quite a lot that is much less obvious. So yeah, so it is all still there. The link will be in the description box below. It's also on my Instagram profile. All the parts are free and will be until the stitch along is finished. So if you think you might want to stitch it at some point, hopefully also all the download links are now to corrected versions of the chart. Do feel free to download them and stitch them at some point when you would like to. So I've been doing that, but the thing that has really had all my attention is this. This is With Love. Let me try and, I haven't ironed obviously, but let me just try and at least hold it vaguely straight. This is With Love. This is the Modern Folk embroidery chart. It was available in a box through Evertote with Roxy Flossco flosses. I just bought the PDF because Mama Loves You GB Michelle said in one of her Flossmas videos she had noticed that this chart was exactly the same dimensions as this, which was the Holiday Countdown chart, my adaptation. I put the colours in all sorts of different places. There was one of the colours I didn't use, and obviously I changed the words here. And I was like, oh, well, that's brilliant. So I worked out that I could just about squeeze it on the rest of my fabric. So it's the same 36 count Turtle Dove. You can't buy Turtle Dove, but apparently Speculoos is very similar colour, so you can buy that. And I don't know which of these colours are now available to buy in the shop or not, but these are all from the Holiday Countdown box. I didn't use Baker's block in the original pattern, and I'm not using it in this, but I am planning to use everything else. Even actually the gold leaf, I had one strand left after I'd finished the frame on my stitch along piece. So I'm like, well, I am going to put that in. So there is a little tiny bit of gold leaf in here. The centers of these little red flowers I did in gold leaf, and there's also a little bit in the middle of those two larger golden flowers. The rest of those is stitched in Ember, I think. Could be Fireside, but I think it's Ember. So yeah, so you know, it's not finished yet, but the rate I'm going is really not far off. I've really been enjoying it, and I think knowing it was the same size as this, and that I was stitching it in a similar kind of way. So the big change I've made, I mean, I made lots of changes, obviously. All the colours are different. The original for this is charted in only 3 colours, and I'm using about 21, so it is really different. But this triangle here and these two at the top of the heart on the chart are done in negative space, so you just use, I think you mostly just use the darker pink, or maybe the paler pink, I can't remember, and you stitch that whole thing except the floral design, whereas I've stitched the design and not the background. So that gives it quite a different look and I guess stitch count. But anyway, I knew, obviously I stitched this in a month. I kept up with this throughout December and finished it on Christmas Day. So it's like, well, I could stitch this in a month. And I think I'm on course to do that by the end of February. I started at the beginning of February. I think I probably will have that finished by the end of the month. And I'm really enjoying stitching it. Yeah, I've worked out what I'm going to put in this section here. I need to chart it out before I can stitch that, but otherwise I'm really enjoying it. There is a mistake. I put it on Instagram and I was like, can anyone see the mistake? And everyone was like, no. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm leaving it. In this deer here, no, this deer here, part of it I managed to stitch with 2 strands instead of 1. And I think because I've been doing the stitch along in 2 strands, I don't know. And I do quite often stitch with 2 strands. The first 4 or 5 colours that I started on this, I had to unpick because I'd done them in 2 strands instead of 1. And you can tell if you know where it is and if you know what you're looking for. I'm not going to do that bit again. I've got plenty of that colour. It's not like I need the thread. And it's one of the more variegated colours, actually. So it doesn't look ridiculous. But yeah, that is the mistake. That there are changes on here, obviously, because, you know, some of them are more intentional than others, but that was definitely a mistake. Anyway, that is with love. And the hashtag for that on Instagram is Stitching Salentine, S-A-L instead of V-A-L, Salentine, Stitching Salentine. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So I've got a little bit more border to do, fill in at the top, these 2 triangles, and then I need to chart that. But actually I'm making really fast progress on this, so I think that won't be too long. I did decide this evening, I was like, oh, I want to just, I mean, I just want to stitch that all the time, but I was like, no, I think I do want to make a new start. So this is, get ready for it, a huge new start. Yeah, well, anyway, it is a new start. This is going to be Ink Circles Red-Headed Bees. So this is part of the round robin that I'm doing with Lizzie from This Mrs. Fisher Stitches and Kath and Claire, Kath W and Clem Barker Stitches, I think that's right, on Instagram. So we're each choosing an Ink Circles pattern, stitching 1/4 of it, and then we'll swap and keep going. And by the end of the year, we'll have a full piece, and we'll have had the fun of stitching on 4 different ones instead of 4 all the same. Idea from Michelle Bendy Stitches. But we're doing I did a sort of call on Instagram for anyone based in the UK so that shipping is a little bit less bank breaking than if it's going back and forward through the elastic. Sorry, I've got my needle in there and it was just poking in really unnecessarily. So I was being really slow about choosing colours for this. I had this fabric, I think it's coffee craft fabric, which means it doesn't have a name and isn't repeatable, but it's 20 count Ada. It's a lovely, rich, yeah, maybe a bit more like that, yellowy, buttery, mottled fabric. I think it's really pretty. So I wanted to do it on that. It's charted for, well, it says it's charted for Classics Colourworks. It's actually charted for Classic Colourworks Belle Soie. And I'm like, I'm not getting the silk for this. So then I took a while trying to work out what colours I wanted to use. And I'm still not absolutely committed. I think the one that I've started stitching, I'm very happy with. The other two might still change. Or I might do the thing of using more colours. Although that's a bit unfair to the people I send it to, so I probably won't on this one. Anyway, let me show you. I have gone with 3 Classic Colourworks. Hayride, so that's the one I've already stitched. Frog Leg and Ruby Slippers. And I think I had a different red in there for ages, but this is more variegated, and I think I'm going to like that. Sorry, you can't see it. I think I am going to like that better. And then the Frog Legs is the sort of bright green, and then the Hayride, a lot of the outline is done in the Hayride, the outline of the bee and so on. And that's quite variegated brown and green. So this is, I think it's sort of an oak leaf at the end, and that's going to have some fill in. So I started there because actually part of that's filled in with the red and part of it with the other green. So I should be able to see whether those are going to work together relatively straightforwardly to begin with. So that's my tiny start on this. We're not sending the first part out until the middle of April. I've got plenty of time to do my quarter of that. That is all the stitching that I've done. I want to just show you, I've had some lovely kindness, Stitchy Kindness in the last few weeks, one of which I forgot to show you last time. So I sent little parcels to Sally of Flossie Sews and Grows and Sarah of Sew Me Sarah for their Fun for 50 sale. And they both sent lovely thank you cards. But I just particularly wanted to show you this one from Sally, because it's got this lovely, isn't that sweet? I just thought, actually, you know, as a way of doing cross-stitch cards, you know, those sort of old-fashioned ones with the apertures and the thing and whatever. But actually, she's just done this little motif of the scissors with little sort of stars around it, which is super sweet in that variegated thread. And then cut it out and mounted it onto some felt and glued it onto card. And I just thought, that's so pretty and thoughtful. And, you know, without enormous amounts of work for a whole card design. So anyway, thank you, Sally. I really like it, but also maybe inspired by it. What else? Another thank you for a thing. People, you don't have to send things to say thank you, particularly if you win giveaways. But anyway, this is from Linda Glover, who won the Holiday Countdown giveaway. So I sent her, you know, the chart that I'd use and enough of the flosses to complete that pattern. But I just want to show you, because it came in, which I slightly have ruined, this sort of patterned inside envelope, and then this beautiful card, which actually I thought she might have made herself, but now I'm looking on the back and there's a company name on the back, which I don't think is Linda. But isn't it pretty? I'm sure if you are a sort of card, paper, crafter sort of person, you could do something like that. But I thought that was very lovely. So thank you, Linda. But she also sent very sweetly a packet of needles, 24 and 26 John James needles. And also this, which is a really beautiful, I haven't taken it out of the packet yet, I should do that. Antique yarn threader. I mean, I think it's antique style rather than actually antique. But isn't it beautiful? Let me just show you that. That's really lovely. And I think it, yeah, it just sort of folds down to protect the thread a bit. And it's you know, it's more stable than just the ones that are like a wire here, and then it'll sit in there. So that's lovely. Anyway, thank you, Linda. That was very sweet. You did not have to do that, but I really enjoyed getting that surprise. There we go. Let me hold it that way. You can see and that's on both sides. So that was very sweet. And then, this was brilliant. So last weekend, I got to spend the afternoon on Saturday with Rachel from Stitchy Rach and her family. Her in-laws live only about half an hour away from me, and so she got in touch to say, you know, are you free and can we meet up? So we went to the new cross stitch shop in Stafford and purchases were made. I was very good, and I did buy some things, but I bought basically birthday presents for my niece. Rachel spent some time digging through the boxes and boxes of older charts. So this lady, although the shop that she's currently in is new, I think she has been involved in running cross stitch shops for like 30 years, because these big boxes are full of charts that she bought when she took over somebody's old stock in the mid-90s. So they're all from before about 1995. And Rachel found some amazing things there. I'm sure she'll show them in her next Flosstube, but she had a cricket collection one that we both really liked. Some Gentle Art charts. I didn't know that Gentle Art did charts, and I'm pretty sure they don't anymore. But there were a couple of designs there that were really lovely that she got. You know, and all sorts of things. If you're somebody that's into mirabilias, Nora Corbett's Lavender and Lace, there's a whole range there. And we're going to talk about the price of old cross-stitch charts in a minute, but I think at quite reasonable prices probably for if they're out of print ones and so on. So I will put the link to the Facebook page below. I'm sure if there's one that you're particularly looking for, you could maybe get in touch and she might see if she's got it and sell it to you. Although she was quite funny. She's like, I don't know. She's got a sort of display with embroidery hoops and then mirabilias hanging from the ceiling. And she's like, yeah, they're all my favourites up there. I don't know if I really want to sell them. I'm like, oh, they're not for sale. Well, they are for sale. But also I really don't know if I want to sell. So anyway, you know, she's obviously a cross stitcher herself and knows what they are. So I had a lovely time with Rachel, and then we went to the ice cream farm and had ice cream and a cup of tea and saw some of the animals. And she gave me this present, and I'm going to show you the rest of it in a minute. But it's 12, don't focus on me, 12 little counting pins, and on each of them it's a spool which she has wound with the 12 colours she's using in her stitch along. Isn't that brilliant? I just thought that was so lovely and so thoughtful, and just a really lovely sort of way of marking the stitch along. I don't know whether she did some for herself. I don't know. I had an idea of what I was going to do with my stitch along piece, and now I'm like, oh, but I want to put all the counting pins with it. So I don't know. I don't know quite what they will get used for. Anyway, the tin that they came in, I put it upside down so that I could show you all the things, but also came with this lovely little dog on it. And we took Charlie with us to the ice cream farm, and he had a lovely time there as well. So that was really nice. So thank you, Rachel and Linda and Sally. And yeah, and I also wanted to say, I meant to say this at the beginning, a huge thank you to everyone who reached out after my last video and was just really lovely. I am doing a lot better. I'm not by any means okay, like normal okay, but I am doing very much better. I'm more on top of life. I wouldn't say I quite got back to the point where I'm doing full days of work, but I'm doing some work, and I'm hoping things are going in the right sort of direction. I have got a doctor's appointment towards the end of February for just a general medication review, partly about the HRT, but I think we'll talk about other things as well. And yeah, I'll see where things are at by then, but there may need to be some other medication changes. But anyway, things are okay, and thank you very much for saying lovely things and thinking of me and reaching out to me. Several people, you know, sent sort of private messages and things, which was just really, really kind and really appreciated. The other thing I meant to do at the beginning and forgot was an apology to Susan, who won the 500 subscriber giveaway. I have not yet been to the post office. I have it all. I've got it in an envelope. I've got your address written on it and everything. I just need to go to the post office. Yeah, I will try and do that. But if you're sitting there thinking, oh, where's it? Where has it got lost? No, it hasn't got lost. It's right here. It will be on its way shortly, I hope. Yeah, no, it will be shortly. Good. So I think that's all I've got in terms of plans. I will be finishing the With Love piece, working on my quarter of the ink circles piece, doing the stitch along, keeping up with that. But also, not this coming week, but the following week, I'm going to be away, and I've got a design that I'm working on that I'm going to take with me to stitch while I'm away because it will be easy. And that is going to be for a charity bundle. So this is just a heads up that this will be coming in early April. Charity bundle from the Stitchers Collective, raising money for Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. We just felt, you know, yes, in Palestine and Gaza, but also still in Ukraine, but also in so many places around the world, people are in really desperate situations. And Médecins Sans Frontières, they work in places where other people just can't. They take in war zones, but also in disaster zones, in all kinds of places. They are offering medical care to people who desperately need it. And so, you know, whether that's something that you have on your mind for a particular situation at the moment, or just everything feels like it's a disaster at the moment, which, you know, more or less when I think about the world, it all feels like that. Médecins Sans Frontières feels like a charity that we can all get behind and support. So there will be a charity bundle coming for that. I have a design that I just need to, I want to stitch up a model for it. And then I'll let you know obviously more about when that is released and how you can get hold of it. So that's also a plan for the next couple of weeks, but that will be secret until the designs are available. So I think those are all my plans. Thinky thoughts. After I posted last week's, whatever it was, last Flosstube, with my thoughts about things coming in and out of trend, and why is everyone suddenly wanting to stitch dimensions kits again, and all that jazz. I was really interested to see the video from Cross Stitch Around the Globe. It's two sisters and I cannot remember. It's Alison and something. That's awful. I can't remember the name of the other sister. Anyway, Cross Stitch Around the Globe. And they did a video looking at the most expensive cross stitch charts. Obviously, the most expensive cross stitch charts are not ones that you find that you can buy new from the designer. These are ones that are out of print, mostly, being sold on the second-hand market. I wonder how much the most is that you have ever paid for a cross-stitch chart. I think I've paid about £20 for a book, but obviously in a book you get a whole lot of charts. For an individual chart, I mean, I really struggle if it's more than £10. I think I probably have paid more than £10, but it feels like a lot to me, particularly because I mostly buy PDFs, and they sometimes are a little bit cheaper, but not usually, not always anyway. But even for a paper copy, I just feel like more than £10 feels like for less than £10 you can buy a book, like a whole book, like a novel to read. And it's one reason why I really struggle to buy magazines, because I'm like, I could buy a whole book, I could buy a book, and you know, books are the best thing to buy. So, you know, you got to really be persuading me that it's something. And then I look at things and I think, yeah, but you know, I could design something if I really wanted to stitch that. So yeah, I'm mean. I'm mean. I am frugal, but I'm also mean. I'm like, no, I don't think it's worth that. So anyway, I don't spend a lot. And I don't tend to make huge, you know, really stockpile charts. I have some paper copies and I have a folder of PDFs of things that I want to stitch that I bought, but it's not loads. I mean, I'd be surprised if it's more than 20 in total. I have got a handful of books, and obviously if you included those, there would be a lot more than 20. But when I buy the books, I'm not planning to stitch everything in them by any means. I buy them because I think there'll be 1 or 2 that I really want to stitch, and that still works out pretty good value, I think. Anyway, Cross Stitch Around the Globe, go and watch it because it is absolutely fascinating. I wasn't sure if it would be that, but I was really drawn in by it. I think the most, well, I won't tell you, the most expensive one. The prices people are paying for these get pretty high pretty quickly, and I'm like, there are people out there with just a lot more disposable income than me, and yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. But what was really interesting to me was seeing what was coming out. So she sort of had the top 10, but then there was sort of, you know, a few that were a similar price to the sort of 9th or 10th that she also included in the list. And the things that came out regularly, I mean, I don't think you would be surprised to learn that there were some Mirabilias in there, some out of print or some limited edition Mirabilias. Okay, I guess, you know, I feel like, to me, Mirabilias are Mirabilias, but there's obviously, if you're, you know, if that's your thing and you're a collector and there are some that you really have your eye on that are particularly special, okay. There are some out of print Blackbird designs, and one that was no longer out of print Blackbird design. And so that was, I think, a salutary lesson. If you think something has a chance of coming back into print, Blackbird Designs is a great example of this. They are bringing back some of their older designs into print. Just maybe think twice before you start really, really spending large. Because, you know, with these things, if it's a chart that you want to stitch, you might think, well, I could spend that large amount of money, stitch it, make a working copy, keep the actual pattern pristine, sell it on, recoup, you know, most if not all, or even more than I paid for it. So you might think, okay, you know, if I just think of it as that, that would make sense. But if then suddenly it gets reprinted, the bottom falls out of the secondhand market, and you're left with this very, very expensive chart that you bought that no one's going to give you more than $15-20 for. So, you know, that was a really interesting thing to note, that there were people who had been caught by that. These were sales on eBay, which I don't know how you do this, but anyway, she'd obviously managed to find a way of tracking cross-stitch charts and ordering them by price. So within the last 12 months, I think, maybe something like that. Go and watch the video, she'll explain about it. So anyway, Mirabilias, Blackbird Designs. There was one that I looked at and thought, oh, do you know, I genuinely would stitch that. I'm not paying that sort of money for it, and therefore I don't know if I actually would stitch it, but I looked at it and was like, oh, I quite like that. By a company that I'd never heard of, and I googled them, and I think they'd only ever produced like 1 or 2 designs. It was it the Lord's Prayer? It was something like that, or it might have been Genesis 1 or something. It was a biblical thing anyway, and but it was really beautifully done, and I was like, yeah, no, I can see why people would want to stitch that. But then the company that came up again and again and again was a company I'd never heard of called Birds of a Feather. They are out of business. They are not going to be reprinting any of their charts. So the secondhand market is where you're going to find them if you want to stitch them. But for the life of me, I cannot work out what there is about those charts that would make people want to pay the sorts of money they are. A lot of the ones that she was showing, you know, there were like 5 or 6 of the top 10. I mean, well, I don't know. Maybe it was, I can't remember. It's a couple of weeks since I watched it. But anyway, it kept coming up, this same company. And several of them were not even charts for you know, reasonable size patterns. They were charts that included patterns for smalls, Christmas ornament smalls, mostly. And they were okay. I didn't think they were great. They certainly weren't unique. Like, if you want a Christmas ornament of a Santa or a Nutcracker or a snowman or an angel, you're not short of options out there that you could buy for $5 or $10. So I just don't know what it was. There's obviously something that I am not getting, but it was pretty incomprehensible to me why people would be spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars for these little Christmas ornament charts. I get that they're out of print, and if you want them, that's what you've got to pay. But surely you could find something else that you could stitch that would be near enough. I don't know, but it was really fascinating. So, I mean, that's about the level of my thinky thoughts this week, is go and watch that video. And I would be really fascinated to know in the comments how much you have spent. What's the most you have ever spent on a single cross-stitch chart? And if you want to tell us what that was and why, I would also be fascinated to hear that as well. Great. I think that is all I've got. Thank you so much for watching. I'm not sure when I will be back, at least 2 weeks, but probably 3 or 4 weeks. Just looking at what I've got coming up. The stitch along videos should still be coming out every Sunday. I've been trying to get ahead so that all I have to do is schedule them, and they should be coming out along with the charts each week. Great, thank you so much for watching. If you're not already subscribed, I'd love you to do that. If you want to click the notification bell so that you'll find out when I do eventually come back, you could do that as well. See you next time.